I love you, Rosie.
Welcome everybody to the fourth episode of the Calibrated cast. I am joined once again by my three co-hosts. I guess I'm part of the co-hosts. Two co-hosts. I'm a co-host.
We can't count.
He's a co-host.
We can't count.
So,
What's up, guys? It's John.
I'm Matt.
and I'm Ani. And our special guest of honor today is none other than Gil Glutes himself. Gil,
Hi, guys.
welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, we usually like to just kind of jump right into it and sort of start out these episodes with, like, your origin story. So, basically, how did you start lifting weights? Like, where did it start for you? And just kind of like, what was your... You can go back as far as you feel is relevant.
Whether it started with sports or something else.
So, how did you start lifting?
Okay. Well, my introduction to like weightlifting is, I guess, kind of similar to like a lot of people's, where I kind of just wasn't happy with my body. So I was like, I kind of want to fix that. So I just started lifting weights, and in the beginning I was doing the typical push-pull leg, abs type, very like those
Legendary split.
Yeah, those like Instagram try this push day type stuff. So that's where it all started, and it was my senior year of high school. And I pretty much kept doing that like my freshman year as well, like freshman year of college. And then it wasn't until my sophomore year of college, before I transferred to Texas State, where I started training powerlifting. So I started putting more of a focus on the main three lifts. And a big part of that was because, people like Dave Tate on YouTube, so like Elite FTS, people like Bart Kwan from Barbell Brigade and JK News and stuff. Those are, I'd say, like the two people that kind of really got me introduced to powerlifting, and where I was like, yeah, this is what I want to train like. So it just started off like me going to like my university's like rec and just, training there. And yeah, that's kind of what started it all. And then made ahead and went the go ahead to transfer to Texas State. And that's when I saw that Texas State had a powerlifting team, and I was like, I want to join the team, compete, gain more experience in the sport, and just learn more. And yeah, that's kind of what made me to where I'm at today.
Okay.
So, what year was your first foray? Like, when did you start? Like, what year?
Like powerlifting or lifting?
Both.
First year lifting was like 2018, and that was like
Okay.
the push-pull leg things. And then I'd say powerlifting, like 2020.
Oh, really?
So
Not
you
too long,
you
actually.
started powerlifting during the pandemic?
Yeah, I'd say that's when.
Because that's when we had tryouts. Was
For spring, right?
yeah, I believe so. Like just before. No, it was just after COVID hit, because there was CNATs. CNATs got canceled. Yeah, it was right after the COVID hit, like when they started opening up the gyms again.
Yeah, because before I transferred here, that's when that whole like training style started to happen. So relatively still new to the sport. Definitely still got a lot more
Making
to learn.
great progress though.
Thank you.
Man,
you.
he's increased his lift so much in the last 3 months alone.
That's also true. I have a juicy question to ask later on.
Okay.
I do want to. So, how was the rec experience for you?
Like back at my old university.
Or just like when you were working at the rec?
At the rec.
How was that experience for you? And then kind of mix and match. Like, how was that experience for you compared to like the gym now?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the rec, I guess that's like where I was kind of still barely starting my lifting journey. So I was the type of person that like I was like super like self-conscious, and I was like, oh, are people staring at me? So, and because of it being a rec, the energy is like very different.
Yeah.
You don't see people yelling and stuff like that. It's a different vibe. So it's so different. Like I was like my like newbie like intro to everything. So that compared to like training like at a gym that we're at now, or even a gym that we used to be at, strength built, you know, the energy is so different because you can be loud. You know, I just felt like I could be myself a lot more in like these like powerlifting gyms, similar to what you said before too, in the conversation we had in the car. That I just felt like I could be more of myself like once I actually got to like a powerlifting gym with other powerlifters and stuff.
Right, something about being a part of a community that makes you feel a bit more relaxed.
Yeah, definitely, and that's probably one of like my favorite things about powerlifting is like the friends I've made and just like the people I've met through the sport. It's great.
Okay. And then also the fact that, was it C Cup was your first ever meet?
Yeah, C Cup was my first ever meet. So that was, I remember people telling me, are you sure?
Yo, they told me the same thing.
Are you sure you want to do C Cup? And for me, I wanted to do C Cup because I knew I wasn't going to place or fucking do anything like that. But I just thought it would be like a really good experience seeing like the most competitive people in my class. And it was really cool because I got to talk to a lot of the people in my weight class that were like placing high. And it was just overall a really good meet experience. And I think Wes does like really good meets, you know? He brings out the lights for like, you know, the later end of and it just makes it feel like, yeah, you know, it makes it feel legit. So yeah, I think it was a very good first meet.
For your experience, for first powerlifting meet experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, since we're on that topic, going into your first meet, throughout your prep, what was your mentality? Mostly like around like 6 weeks, like we talked about our own meets, is 6 weeks getting into it first. Like, how was your mentality? What was you thinking about it? Was it like, oh, now I gotta start, you know, being more serious, dialing in? Explain that process.
Yeah, I'd say that the whole like prep process, I'd definitely say I was very dialed in. And especially 6 weeks out, I was like, it's getting closer. Because it's so funny, because like the thing about a meet prep is that like sometimes you'll be like, oh, I'm like 5 months out from a meet. And then before you know it, it's like bam, you're already practicing your openers and everything. So getting to that point was definitely very surreal. But luckily, I had a really good coach that helped me go through like any like anxious thoughts I was having and just calming me down. And yeah, so yeah, definitely have Mr. BV Win to shout out for that because he kept me very calm and collected during that like 6 weeks out process.
Okay. And then, well, now that we're talking about it, let's put it into perspective of 1 week out. What was that? Now we're close to the meet. Yeah. What was that? How was your mentality feeling at that point?
It was nervous, but a good nervous. Because I guess I wasn't like super, I guess, nervous about how my performance was going to be. It was just like, oh my god, this is my first meet. Like I didn't know what to expect really. But being a week out was definitely, that was when it was like, oh dang, like this, it's about to happen. And but like I said, luckily I had Brian there with me, you know, keeping me calm and collected. But yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome.
But as far as the 1 week out, I know that's whenever you're hitting your singles, or is that what he had you doing, like singles, right?
Yeah, and that was a very crazy week because Ani was there for that, but I failed 300 like 2 times before I got it. So that was a very like, oh my god type thing because it was so funny because before that squats have been were going like really good and like I had never failed a squat like ever. So like when that first happened, I was like, whoa, that's weird. And besides like the week out, 4 weeks out, I had to switch from being sumo stance to conventional stance.
That's right.
Which was a very like that was like very like I was like, oh my god, I was stressing very hard.
Why did you have to do that again?
Hip flexor, right?
Yeah. So when I first started with Brian, I'd say couple months after I had a hip flexor strain. So it got to the point where even when I would pull slack, just instant sharp pain. So I had to take a whole month off of just like only squatting and deadlifting like 135 pounds at max. So but anyway, I rehabbed that within a month and everything was going swell. But then 4 weeks out, I started having similar pain, not like not too bad, but it got me worried to the point where I was like, I do not want to injure myself and get myself out for a month.
Especially when you're 4 weeks out.
Especially when I'm 4 weeks out. So I was like, I guess we're going conventional. And luckily for me, going conventional is what actually got me to better understand pulling slack on a deadlift. So because of that, overall, I still PR'd on deadlifts and went above what we expected. And after that, when I went back to sumo after the meet, it just made everything better.
Okay. Well, leading into that is basically I want to talk about C Cup. So we want to get like your perspective. How was your mentality throughout the whole meet? What was going through your mind? Whatever you want to talk about, whether it's the warm-ups, things that were kind of like the most interesting and kind of like maybe nerve-wracking to you about the whole meet.
And the thing I'm interested in is like your expectations of what that meet was like gonna be, not necessarily just in like your lifts, but like the whole, meet going process, like, what a powerlifting meet is, what you do during a powerlifting meet, going in versus, going through and then post. So go through the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have heard before me competing that like competitions can be so stressful, especially on the handler's part too sometimes, and even, of course, the lifter, because there's just like so much going on. And I guess one of the things that like I got to see firsthand too at my first meet was like how everyone really fights for a rack and making sure that they get to do their warm-ups, and how sometimes people can be stingy with that. That's what I saw, and I was like, dang, that's crazy. Because there was times where it was like, no, my lifter needs to go right now. So seeing that was pretty interesting. And then just the actual like seeing everyone get really zoned in, because that's when usually everyone has their headphones in, everyone's just like in the zoned out and not talking to anyone, just doing the warm-ups, going through the motions. So that was pretty interesting to see too, because that meet I actually didn't bring my headphones. So I was just my thoughts. It was just me and my thoughts.
You could just ask us.
No, I actually did borrow my friend Chris's headphones for a little bit. But it was just me and my thoughts for a good part of just being in the warm-up room.
That's where that when you're waiting during your flight, that infamous picture of you that you have as your IG picture.
Yeah, I'm just
he was just there,
sitting there chilling, vibing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just in my thoughts. Seeing like how the warm-up room goes was very interesting to see, and how their handlers handle their athletes and everything. And then the actual process of how like the flights go was like so cool to see and so crazy, because it goes so fast, and you have to like be so precise on your timing of your warm-ups and making sure you do everything correctly, because otherwise like you're either going to be too cold or you're rushing your warm-ups. So that was definitely like a really cool process to see just how that all goes. And then as far as like actually getting up to like right before I was gonna go, that's probably like the most like nerves I had, especially before that first squat. I mean, I'm sure y'all can relate that first squat walking up there is like, oh my god, because that's like you're just in front of everyone, and you just kind of have to like zone in, just do your thing. But yeah, definitely I'd say after that first squat, that's when like my nerves started to be like, okay, we're good, just finish off your lifts.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's what I was wondering, is the feeling of whenever you are announced to go next, and then hearing bars loaded, and then your coach or your handlers take your headphones off, telling you prepare yourself, stay tight, all those things before you go on there. It's like it's a whole different feeling, especially if it's like your first meet too.
Oh
yeah, definitely.
Just being told that, and you're like, oh, it's time. It's go time now. So okay. Well, overall, what did you think and how did you feel as far as like how that meet went?
Really good. I was very happy with how everything went. I went 8 for 9, so I thought that was pretty good for my first meet. The only lift I missed was my third attempt for bench, but I PR'd on deadlifts, and then I hit the 300s for squat, which was we pretty much hit all the goals that me and Brian wanted to hit. Like we had like a little like notepad list of goals we wanted to hit. The clipboard, and we hit everyone except just like the third attempt bench. But I kind of expected not to PR on bench or do anything that crazy, because the week before I kind of hit under my 1 rep max for bench. So my expectations for bench weren't high, but my expectations were more high for my deadlift.
Okay.
So hitting that 374 deadlift was really cool.
And that was conventional, right?
Yeah, conventional.
So what weight class?
66.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really cool, getting to do that. And then, so I'd say like overall, I was like very happy with how I performed and just like with the circumstances, I was really happy with it.
Okay. Well, if, I'm pretty sure from what we've seen, of course, I mean, it was a fun meet overall. I mean, seeing
so
everyone, cheering everyone on. A massive meet with almost 300 people.
Yeah, that's the thing about C Cup is it was so much people in the crowd, like so many people.
So many people in the back, just like, oh, sorry.
So, yeah.
But okay. Well, what about as far as like post meet? Were you kind of? I know some people have like that, post meet blues. Like, oh, what do I do now? I don't know what else to do. You're kind of like stuck in that. When's my next meet? Or it's like, when am I gonna? Or like, how long? Because for me, I know for sure it was kind of like I am already looking forward to like going back in the gym and all that. So far, I haven't reached that point where it's been like I don't want to go to the gym. Like I don't want to do anything right now. But for you, what was it like after?
It was actually the opposite of post-meet blues. So after that meet, I was more amped up than anything because I got to see how like competitive my weight class can be and how like the weight that's people in my weight class were pulling or benching and squatting. And it just got me more hyped because I was like, oh my God, I can't wait for my next meet. Like I remember the first thing I told my coach when the meet was done was I can't wait to do my next meet. And I told him I can't wait for this off season and to build up. So I guess I'd say like my mindset after my first meet was just even more like hype and just like I was like I really love this sport because that was again my first competition, and a big reason why I joined the team is because I wanted to compete. And I knew I could do that because I could get a coach and a handler and all that and like a proper program. So my mindset after my first meet was okay, I'm gonna dial in during this off season, keep going with the same intensity that I had in my prep during my off season, and just get ready to build up my total for my next meet.
Okay,
that's awesome.
Well, before I know I keep saying it, but I just want to make sure I'm not interrupting if you're about to ask anything.
So obviously you had a hip flexor problem.
Yes.
And you had to switch to conventional. Do you think the outcome would have been like obviously because you're a sumo person, so you're used to sumo and you had to learn conventional within 4 weeks. So
I will say that I lifted with him a lot when he did conventional, and his conventional was a very natural looking conventional. So, but I know what you're gonna say. So finish your question.
Do you think that you would have pulled a lot more while you're if you were doing sumo and not have a hip flexor problem, or you think the greater outcome was the conventional deadlift?
I think the greater outcome was a conventional deadlift for the one reason being, and I know I said it, but it's because for the longest time with sumos, I didn't know how to properly pull slack.
Okay.
So because of that, there would be days where weight I know I could do just wouldn't budge, or just would not move the way it should be. And the thing about conventional is like I do think, of course, if everything would have been going perfect, if I knew how to pull sumo more optimally and I didn't have that hip flexor issue, I for sure could have pulled more. Even I know my coach had like a higher number planned.
Yeah.
But all in all, I think because of the actual circumstances and like my injury and just the tech issues I was having, conventional was definitely going to be the higher outcome.
Okay. And then you said your problem is slack. So now looking back, was it kind of like a simple fix, or was it more like, okay, I need to change my stance, I need to do this differently than that, or like what was like what was missing?
There was two things missing. So one, I was trying to pull slack in a way where you just you tug on that bar and then you wedge in.
Okay.
And the thing about that is I've tried that way for so long and I could just never get good at it. Like I remember there was 1 week where I was doing it consistently and I was like, yeah, but then after that is gone. So and it's so funny because the only thing missing was just me driving my feet into the ground. having that
Yeah.
like tension in my legs.
Build all that tension on your legs.
But like for whatever reason, I couldn't do it that way.
Yeah.
So now the way I pull slack is I kind of pump my hips out a little bit, and by doing that, I'm actually able to drive my feet into the ground, like me personally.
Yeah.
So that was one of the fixes. And then the second fix was the way I approached wedging. So before, the way I would approach wedging would be kind of like, I would think in my head like this motion.
Yeah.
And because of that, I was really dropping my hips and pushing my knees forward. So that would just mess up my bar path.
Yes.
So one thing JP told me to do that fixed that was just to focus on keeping my hips high and pushing my hips towards the bar.
Yeah.
So because of that, it made me more open, and it fixed everything.
Yeah.
So
I was having the same problem too. Actually, a week out before my meet, it was so. I don't know. It was just deadlift wasn't it. And then I had a talk with Evan. Basically, my problem was I was pulling the slack out of the bar versus like building all that tension in my legs and being the slack for the bar.
Yeah.
And I was also too close to the bar. It was grinding up my shins and all that, which is, it's not a bad thing depending on your stance.
Yeah.
But and I was also getting a lot of hip pain too. And I noticed I gave some room, and now the bar is like midfoot, like where technically it should be. And man,
magic.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah.
So. It's definitely funny because deadlifts used to be my least favorite lift. Like I hated it because, I'm okay with weight being heavy sometimes, but it's just I could never understand deadlifts. So it wasn't until like 5 weeks ago where I finally understood them, and I'm like, hey, I kind of like this. This is nice.
This is kind of
This is
Now
nice.
you're pulling 4 plates for a single RB6.
So-
congrats, by the way.
Thank you,
It
thank
was
you.
awesome. It was awesome.
But yeah, so deadlifts were definitely a love-hate relationship,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
they've definitely gotten to a point now where I actually feel comfortable with them.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Must be nice.
Nice. But now after that meet and everything, well, when is your next meet? Is it going to be C Cup again for 2022, or are you gonna think about doing one in the middle? Between?
I've thought about maybe doing a summer meet.
Mhm.
Just depends if there's one at the end of the summer. Because I know there's one in June, but I was kind of hoping for maybe one in July.
There's actually Wes mentioned this at the meet that we did on Sunday. He's gonna be holding a meet in July and August.
Yeah, but isn't the July one at a high school?
Not entirely sure. I know it's a TSS meet though. So in July and August.
I feel like I've also looked, and I
Ew.
feel like.
Well, it's not out yet. There's no registration.
Oh, really? It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Sometimes they won't release it until like when it's near the meet.
Yeah, 'cause
Not too long.
That's not convenient.
It's
I'm
like
trying to plan my summer.
One week out. Oh,
Unless,
okay, there's a
unless
meet
it's
next
like a very popular meet where it's
Yeah.
like it's a well known one, kind of like the one I was looking at was Primetime. That's a very popular meet in Houston. I think I don't know if it goes anywhere else, but they're holding it in Houston, and they already they set a date for whenever registration opens.
yeah.
So unless it's a very popular meet like that, then they probably will be like any other meets, such as like the ones you were talking about. It's like it's not that popular. They're gonna be like, oh, we'll just announce it later, and then not only that,
Yeah.
take more time to set it up
Yeah.
compared to those popular meets.
You also gotta
Right, okay.
realize like July, August. That's like what 4 months, give or take.
Yeah,
Right now it's 4. Yes.
yeah. So
Oh,
still a
yeah,
little
you're
bit
right,
more
about
time.
4.
yeah.
Yeah, but
yeah, definitely end of summer maybe, but for sure is next C Cup, because my main goal for the off season was to build up my total, because I want to have a qualifying C Nats total and close to a just regular junior Nats total that I can.
Are you close to that? Like if you were, because right now you're doing singles at what 6, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So if give or take estimate, like I know it's kind of hard to estimate like your true one
True
trip.
to max.
Yeah. So like give or take, you think you're close, or do you qualify maybe?
Very close to like the C Nats total, like
Okay.
the C Nat, like super close. I know that. And then as far as like just like the junior Nats total, that one's probably like another 100 pounds away.
Okay.
So let me clarify. So this is your current, like your RP6 total, or like your estimated total from your RP6 singles?
Estimate total from my
Okay.
RP6, but even just like the RP6 singles, I'm pretty close.
Damn.
Yeah, man.
That's crazy.
Okay. Well, before we do, are you planning on staying at 66 or are you gonna go jump up? That was the thing.
That is a good question. So right now, me and my coach are, well, I'm doing a bulk, but he wanted me to.
Okay.
Is a bulk up to like the mid 150s,
Uh-huh.
and then a cut back into the 66s, which would be like, or the 67.5 now, which is around like 147.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm basically going up to like maybe 155 and then cutting back down, just to add more, I guess, muscle to my frame.
Oh yeah.
Lean
Just
mass.
because, just
That
because,
mass.
I guess like at the point that I'm at right now with my lifting, I feel like that would help a lot. You know?
At any point, it would help.
Yeah,
a lot.
of course, right? Yeah. But I guess it's one of those things where it's like I have a very big arch, but you know, an arch is only gonna take me like a certain way. You know, you gotta have some good triceps. You know.
True.
So yeah, that's what we're mainly focusing on right now. But yeah, I guess like in the short term and my next couple competitions, definitely 66s. But I've thought about going up to the 74s.
Okay.
In the long term, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe when I'm in the open. But for my junior years, 66.
I would say for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Around this time, I'll be like, for your juniors, might as well just stick to like 66s because over time, you're still gonna start building more and more muscle mass. So
Yeah.
you have a lot of time. By the time you go to to the opens,
Yeah.
you're gonna be set. So
Yeah, so who knows? Maybe I'll still be a 66 when I'm in the opens, but I was maybe thinking about going up to 74s. That point.
Interesting.
okay. Well, I mean, we already man. How many months away now? How many months away from C Cup?
C Cup.
This year?
It's March, so 9.
9 months, man. We have a lot of time.
I
Not only
know.
that, he hit a 405 for single,
That's
like it was nothing.
And like 345 squat single.
345.
Yeah.
So
this
a
close to
lot
getting-
more time
You
left.
hit 350, and you already hit a 2-plate bench, right?
Yeah, 225.
Yes.
So like a over 400 squat, maybe like a 275 bench, and then what?
For something.
Yeah.
Close to 5, maybe.
Yeah, 494.
I was talking to Ani about this, but I definitely for sure want a 265 bench. That's like the other two lifts. It's kind of like estimates, like I want to get close to this, but bench is like I definitely want 265. Like that's a number I just have in my head. And then deadlift, I definitely want to get as close to 500 as I can. And squats, like.
Okay. And then, so how far off are you from the national total? I mean, national qualifications?
For like CNATs.
Yeah.
For CNATs, it's like I think like 70 pounds away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not even far enough if you start adding more pounds to each lift.
And then like junior nats is like a little more because I think like the qualifying total for junior nats in the 66 is like 1,229.
That's not bad.
But yeah. But it's definitely something I think I can do. So it's a good thing.
That's awesome.
I definitely have the, I guess like the drive and motivation. Like that's what I want to do. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. Especially when you have 9 months, man. Like 9 months, you can easily, in my opinion, at least, for a lifter who hasn't, hit a plateau yet, you can easily add 100 pounds plus. Especially in 9 months. I mean, I added almost 60 pounds to my total within from November to this meet. Like and that's with that little time,
Yeah.
So just imagine 9 months. I mean, hopefully I'll be like a 90 kg or maybe 100. Who knows? It just depends.
You're backing out of our deal already, man.
Oh, man. Hey, calling you out.
I gotta get a first place medal in every weight class, bro.
Oh,
Every weight
He's
man.
gotta collect them like the Thanos, like
Yeah.
like Infinity Gauntlet. It's
First-
all mine.
First it was 105s, now it's 110s, now the 90s to 100. We'll see, man. We'll see.
I'll just go 66, 74.
Yeah.
No.
No, but welcome back from our break. So Gil, actually, there's a question I do want to ask.
Okay.
So, obviously, well, we know, but they don't know. You have a different coach,
Yes.
and that coach is
Mr. JP.
Warrior Fitness.
The
Yes.
Don.
So
yes.
there's one thing I do want to ask because because you are progressing actually super well.
Thank you.
And one thing I do want to ask is, you think you would have progressed the same if you were still with Brian? And another question on top of that. Sorry, I didn't mean.
No, yeah.
And another question is, how are they different as like coaching wise? You know, is it good? Is it bad? You know, is it kind of neutral or you know?
Yeah. Okay. So my old coach, Mr. Brian Wynn, very great coach, and they're very similar in the way of they're both very attentive to their clients. So they both reply very, very quickly. If you need to work with them, like if you need like, oh, I need help with like this certain cue, I'm not getting it, or oh, could you help me out with my bench? They'll make time out of like their own like plans to go ahead and meet with you and train with you and help you out. I'm sure Ani can attest to that too.
Fucking love Brian. He's so good at his job.
Yeah. So there's been multiple times too when I was still with Brian where I needed help with my squat because I was having like bicep pain or something. And he'd be like, yeah, and then instantly fixed it. So they're both very similar in that way. But I think the way they approach, I guess, their programming is like very different. And I'm sure you can attest to that because you were at one point coached by JP too in the past. Yeah. So I'm sure you know. You're so I'm sure you know. What is it? Their programming style is very different. But what is it? I guess the one thing I think as far as like answering the question of do I think I would have been progressing as fast with my previous coach, I would probably still be progressing, maybe not as much. Though, and the only reason I say that is because my current coach explains things in a way very, how would I say it, layman's term.
Okay.
So I'm very much a dumbass. So my current coach will be like, do this, like, and then I'm very much a visual learner too.
Yes.
So I'm able to kind of like copy paste certain things. So for my deadlift, for example, JP was really able to help me out with that because he told me, oh, just do this, and he sent me a video of him doing it, and I was able to just kind of copy that movement, and I was like, yeah, this feels good now.
Yeah.
So I think as far as like answering the question of my progression, I think I still would have progressed with my previous coach, just maybe not as fast. And that's not to say my previous coach wasn't a good coach.
Oh, no, of course not.
He's an amazing coach. But I think, I'm sure you and Matt can maybe attest to this, because I don't know if Matt has had more than one coach, or if you've been with BMG since the beginning. But,
go ahead.
Sorry, well, I was just going to say, there's sometimes like you'll see in your powerlifting career that certain coaches you just click with as far as like understanding the way they explain things. And for me personally, with JP, I was that click and that connection of like the way he explains things just better translated with me.
No, of course. I mean, yeah, like you brought up, I was coached by JP, got injured, then when I came back from injury, it was BMG, and now I'm with Brian. But no, it's like I get what you're saying, and what I really think, what kind of made you, I guess, quote unquote, like progress more, is that different techniques and different style. You know, maybe you your body clicks with this style now versus clicking back with with Brian and all that, because they are actually very different. It's like opposite side of the spectrum. But one thing I do notice, Matty and JP are kind of similar, but Matty is different in his own ways. And so with JP, I do agree with you. JP does explain things like to like it's like a book of one of those dummy books. You know?
Yeah,
it's like, hey, just do this, do that, and you're good. And it's like, okay. And then Brian uses big words and all that, and so like I do understand that, so it does make sense. But with JP, my experience with JP was, he was my first coach ever. So I didn't know what to expect of a coach, but at the time he was president and he was coaching half, if not more than half of the team, and I wasn't a priority. So I did understand. It's like, oh, you don't have to be here every day with me. Just like when we're at practices, he did help me out a bit in here and there, and JP actually did teach me sumo, and so shout out to JP. He did help me out with sumo and learn it, and So and he was surprised that I actually picked it up kind of fast. Well, that was because of him, explaining it literally to the T and as dumb as possible.
Yeah.
But no, it is interesting. Me being coached or have been coached by three different people, and to see how like their styles, and all that. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a really cool thing because most of the time throughout your powerlifting career, you're gonna have more than one coach. Sometimes, of course, sometimes maybe you get lucky and the first coach you have, you're just with them for like the long run, forever. But I know another person that was on the team, Evan. He's gone through like 7+ coaches, maybe
something like that.
Yeah,
5+ for sure. And
it wasn't until his coach now where he found a coach that he really clicked with. So I think that's definitely like a very interesting part of the sport too. Mm-hmm. But I have nothing but love for my previous coach. Like me and Brian are still super good friends.
That's you guys at the gym, just like, hey man.
Yeah.
So it's always good to have connections.
Yeah, and I would definitely still recommend my previous coach as a coach to people because it's just one of those things where it's like
you don't know who's
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it's some coaches are not necessarily bad.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just work better for different people.
Yeah.
Different people, click with other people. Maybe it's programming style. Maybe it's frequency. Maybe it's just the organization of how they program their lifts. Maybe it's the periodization itself. Maybe it's just, like you said, there's just the JP explains things in a way that you can understand them. I'm not saying that Brian is terrible at explaining this. I'm with Brian, and I get what he says.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah.
I'm just like, sometimes, you just need something different.
Yeah, like a different input on things. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily a bad coach versus a good coach. It's just different. And, like I've mentioned this before, but I think the mark of a good coach is, learning their athletes. As individuals, especially for a sport like this, right? Where it is an individual sport. Learning your athlete as an individual is so important. Mm-hmm. So, not everybody's going to be able to, lift how you maybe want them to lift. So, I'm not saying that Brian does that. I don't think that he does that at all. Mm-hmm. But like I said, maybe just JP just gets you. He just gets you better, man.
Yeah. And then it probably does have to do with the experience. JP.
That's true. Yeah.
JP is more experienced.
Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah, and then on top of that, multiple national lifters and all that. And
Yeah.
I mean, actually, Brian has a national lifter too.
Yeah,
two.
Actually, two.
Two. Yeah.
Kevin and Jones. Yeah. Both awesome lifters, by the way.
And if Angelo would do a comp sometime soon, he would also probably be there too.
Yeah, Angelo. He does.
Angelo, you're strong.
Yeah, Angelo has good numbers to even qualify for Nats.
And of course, BMG's roster is full of
of course.
probably record holders pretty soon here.
Yeah, definitely.
On top of JP as well, actually.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm blessed to have JP and BMG as my coach is back then, because it's a whole learning process. It's like learning a different language. And seeing where they come from, how they run things, and learning between BMG and JP. At first it was like, oh, this is similar, but then you also got to realize Matty was being coached by JP, and then he threw in his BMG twist, which was nice, and so it was just, it's very interesting. And so
if you really want to get into it, Brian was coached by BMG. It still is at this point in time.
That's also true.
So there's always been a joke that Brian is a third generation JP client. Because BMG came from you, but Brian also throws his own little movements. I mean, more just as well as I do, but he's got us doing some weird stuff sometimes. But it all, for a purpose.
For a purpose, it's very purposeful.
It was kind of interesting because for my taper actually was actually interesting. We did something different. He said, it's like, I'm gonna warn you ahead of time. I've never done this before with an athlete. So it was just like what was it? I think we hit a single at RP7 twice. Mm-hmm. and I thought that was interesting. And I think the highest we ever went was RP 8.5.
For all three, or what specific one?
No, for all three. So obviously I had my singles at a 6, RP 6.
Mm-hmm.
The next week was RP 7.
Mm-hmm.
The week after that, RP 7 again.
Wow.
And then the week after that was 8. But we can push it a little bit harder, but mostly keep it in the pocket of 8.5, and then taper.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really interesting.
Yeah.
But I mean, it worked out well.
Yeah.
Got first and stuff.
And that's one of the things I have to say about Brian. It's something that you said about the signs of a good coach is like them knowing their athletes. Brian definitely knew me as like an athlete. Like he knew exactly how to motivate me.
And it's crazy. It's honestly crazy. It's like, because I believe Brian has 8, 9 athletes, give or take, around there.
Actually, I think
yeah.
it's less. Maybe like 6 or 7.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's somewhere around there, and it's crazy because this man, on top of school, this man knows every athlete's weakness, their strengths, technique, what to do, and how to do it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's very cool to see, and he knew that like I'm the type of person that with a lift, like yes I like hype, but having someone right before a lift tell me like I believe in you. And like just be very calm and just be like the way he would talk to me, it would get me like, yeah, I got this.
Yeah.
So like he really definitely does pay attention on like how to motivate an athlete, which is really really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's Brian's such a, I don't know. It's crazy because it's like
I feel like every day we get on this podcast, it's a combination of like appreciation, Brian, and then
Brian not knowing things.
All the stuff we did not tell him. Or
that's funny because he was like, interesting. You should have really told me that you weren't really good at taper.
Bruh.
And I was like, I kind of did, but not really.
Yeah, I've had that with Brian too.
But it's like, overall experience with Brian is like 9.5 out of 10. Like it's.
Yeah, I mean, I've told so many people this, but like I had during that injury where I was pretty much only squatting like 135 and deadlifting like 130, like very low numbers. I PR'd like out of the injury, like at my first single, I like 10 pounds above my squat single, and I made it look like RP 5 to 6.
I remember that.
And that's like thanks to Brian's programming. Like he knew what he was doing, and like it's like that first day of squatting heavy, it's like everything feels fine. So it's like he definitely knows what he's doing.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, like you said, it's really up to the lifter, like what he's looking for. Because like there's some people who are like, give me program and just leave me alone. Yeah. There's some people like that. There's some people who wants the coach to be there. Constantly be like, how did that lift go? What do you think? Should I go up? Should I go down? And then like immediate response be like, okay, you need to go up or something to fix. It's really up to the person. Yeah. Because I know there's some people who's just like, just give me a program. I don't care. I just want to get a program and just do better. And it's just like, okay, so you don't want to know if you need to fix something? No, just give me the program. So there are some people there. I mean, I'm pretty sure like you can tell the difference between Big Matt and Brian. You can tell the difference of like, okay, do I want this or do I lose something from my first coach but I'll get something else and that's what I want more. It's
that's
really
a way of explaining it.
Yeah, it's really up to you. And like you said with Evan, switching so many coaches but finding the right one, sometimes you gotta do that. Yeah. Sometimes it's okay. Yeah, definitely. Especially if you're gonna be paying.
Yeah, definitely, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So
I was gonna say, if they just want a program, just buy one. You don't have to buy one. There are plenty of free ones.
Candido.
I ran Candido 6 weeks. Those were good times, bro.
But yeah, I mean, with your progress and everything's going, I mean, it seems like it's going really well. Yeah. And you're not even close to comp yet, so that's another thing too. So I'm very excited to see, especially during the end of the year.
What's crazy is like not only has your training been great, but your nutrition has also been top tier. And JP, he does your nutrition, does he not? Why don't you talk about like the changes in your nutrition and like how much you think that contributes to the way that you've been because you're doing all kinds of stuff: intra-workout carbs, meal timing, protein, like even distribution. So.
First of all, let's say this. When he joined the team, he was such a small bean.
Oh my
So small. We're talking about like 59 kg almost. And I was like, looking at him now, I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
Be in this cup real quick.
No, like it's crazy. Honestly, it's crazy now looking at you from C cup to now. Like
Even that, yeah.
Yeah, like your chest is more defined. You have like.
We were just talking earlier about your VMO. You finally you got your VMOs.
Yeah, and then your shoulders and your arms. So it's and your quads actually.
That's what I'm saying. Like a VMO, yeah.
But speaking of which, tell us the process of like what changed and then what did you do or where did you look for information maybe to be like, okay, let me go dial in on my nutrition and let me bulk up a little bit more and be more clean or whatever it may be.
Yeah, so it started actually the prep during C cup. That's when, because before that I was just counting my calories, like that was it. And then the prep during C cup, I started counting my protein intake, and even that just made like a world of a difference because I was like, oh, I'm not just eating calories, I'm actually making sure I get my protein in. So that made a difference. And then once I got with JP, like the first thing he said, or one of the first things he told me is. He wanted me to pack on a lot of muscle and some pounds during the off season, just to I guess like fully what's the word
Fill out your frame.
Fill out my weight class as much as I could, and so I guess like that's when I really started dialing in nutrition. So he had me on like a specific meal plan. So let's say for meal 1, he had me eating 4 meals a day, or has me eating 4 meals a day, and he'll be like, oh, you need. In total, this amount of protein, this amount of carbs, this amount of fat, but you need for your meal 1, let's say like 36 grams of protein, and then 14 grams of fat, and then 85 grams of carbs. But then for your pre-training meal, we're going to have you at like 112 grams of carbs. Same amount of fat and protein, but a little higher up in carbs. Yeah. Same with my post.
Okay.
So that's how it's like mainly been, but I'd say like because of that and actually paying attention to my macros and stuff like that, my performance in the gym has felt phenomenally better.
I mean, it shows. It goes to show.
10 times. Like, I feel like so much better in the gym. Like, I look back sometimes and I'm like, there were times where like before where I would go into the gym session without eating and I'm like, I don't know how I did that. Yeah. Because like now it's like, if I were to not, I would feel like death.
Trash.
Like absolute trash. So yeah, paying attention to nutrition more definitely helps so much. And what is it? Yeah, no, even like outside of the gym, like I guess like how I feel like on my normal day-to-day basis, like I just feel better because I'm actually like counting my macros, making sure I get in my vegetables, my fibers, certain things like that. And so besides feeling good in the gym, I feel good outside of the gym, and just overall body composition, I feel like 10 times better now because I'm like, oh, my like legs look a little better, my chest looks a little better. So like that's like another plus too. So I'd say like paying attention to your nutrition, like not just paying attention like oh making sure you perform in the gym, but just the stuff you do outside of the gym, like your nutrition, your sleep is like so important. Because that's another thing I've been doing too is keeping track of my sleep, like how many hours I sleep, my water intake, how much I weigh in at the morning, and that's just made a world of difference in my like lifting and just life in general.
Okay, well, because I know a lot of powerlifters really make the like mistake of being like, you know, not paying attention to their calories, their macros a lot, especially like they'll be like, oh, like I just need bulk up, I should be fine. I mean, but you're realizing you're also not doing as much cardio as you should, you know, like the typical like general health population doing that, and then instead you're mostly focusing on just strength. You're not really focusing on your cardio health. So people are just really not paying attention to kind of like, oh, I'm just gonna eat a lot so I can gain a lot of muscle and stuff. And they'll be like, okay.
And then they get tired walking 2 steps.
You get so tired just be like doing the same shit. It's like, okay, but you still that's like you said, being healthy. You know, it's okay to cheat every now and then,
of course,
but not just being like, I'm just gonna eat what I want.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely.
I mean, and we can see it's definitely benefiting you and seeing the strength gains too. But I definitely understand. It's just kind of like even for me in the beginning, I was just kind of like, I just ate what I want.
Yeah,
Especially this past one, I was just like, I don't care.
Like, eh.
And then now it's like, oh, I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I mean, it's important for nutrition.
Definitely.
People
For
underestimate
sure.
it too.
Yeah.
Like it's not enough. Like as kind of silly as it may sound, because like everything is energy, right? But like just tracking calories is not enough, and sometimes even just tracking macros not enough. You need to hit your macros. You need to hit your fiber. You need to hit your electrolytes, and like you need to do the cardio. You need to to sleep the amount of time. You need to lower the stress. Like if you check every box, like.
Yeah, like
That's
it makes,
what leaving it all on the table looks like, in my opinion.
Exactly, and like JP has me having like Gatorade and Propel during my workout to
talk
have
about
my
the intra. I want to know how if you feel like the intra actually does help.
Definitely.
I've heard mixed things about intra, so talk about your experience.
Okay, so in my personal opinion, of course, the time I started doing intra carbs and stuff like that was also the time I started caring about my macros and calories. So I'm sure like that and the macros helped a lot too. But like definitely like having like my Gatorade and Propel, like having those intra carbs and electrolytes makes my workout feel like 10 times better. Because there's been like a couple of times where I forget, like I'll have like I'll make sure to bring my gallon of water, but then I just forget my Gatorade and Propel packet, and I'm like, oh, this session feels weird. And it's not even just like a placebo thing, like it just generally like it just feels so different. So I definitely would say like those intra carbs and electrolytes really do make a difference. And it's like, you know, when you're powerlifting, it's like if there's anything that can help you, even in like in the micro, like it's worth it, you know, because like those little things are gonna add up in the long run, like for when you have like a meet, you know, it's like it's just gonna add up to like a bigger help.
Yeah, I just think it's and like you said, like it's not a placebo thing. You're with Brian, so you know all of the two cups of rice before your workout. You know, like I felt it in my deload on Tuesday. I was like, damn, I forgot to get my 2 cups of rice, because that's like because I will have my meal before that 2 cups of rice plays so much. That or what's his other go-to, a bagel with soy sauce?
Yeah.
Yeah, he told me about
Bagel with soy sauce.
He told me about this poverty pre-workout meal, which is like if he doesn't make his rice, it's like he puts like soy sauce on like a bagel or some freaking toast.
It's
like
crazy how it works, though.
I know, I'm sure it does. That's why he wouldn't do it.
It's crazy because I forgot it, and you know I thought I was going crazy. I was like, dude, everything seems to go right. Like I'm looking at my fitness pal. I'm like, dude, it's like everything's there. I've had my meal. And then I noticed I didn't have my 2 cups of rice. I didn't have my substitute, which is the bagel and the soy sauce. It's like, you know. And so it's crazy too because I'm deloading. So I shouldn't really. I mean, I should, but like it shouldn't really play a big part. But it played a big part. And so it's crazy, like how going back to the thing about like coach's technique and all that. It's crazy, like. I don't know. It's just it's mind blowing.
Yeah, it's very definitely.
Oh, speaking of which, writing on that, that brings me up another question. It could be for everyone too. Is the routine, like you said, you gotta have 2 cups of rice, and it's like, oh, like now if my workout feels weird. I know for me, it's like I have to have like. For me, lately now is I've been eating like mini bagels, just like 1 or 2 before a workout, because it helps a lot and it lasts me for throughout the whole workout. I don't know if there's anyone where it's like, if one thing's missing, whether it's food or something's off, and you're like, oh, this workout's gonna be. Ugh. Is there something along those lines where it's like you routinely have to have it, or it's not gonna be a good workout?
I think it's all of us, honestly. Especially now, because I told Brian I'm cutting 2 weight classes. So he's like, okay, just make sure your nutrition's right. Make sure, you know, you get your macros and at least have 2 meals in and, you know, a cup of rice or 2 cups of rice and all that. And for sure, like, I can already tell by the time, like, I normally go to the gym and I'm like, dude, I'm not even on my 2nd meal yet. Like, it's like, I need to have it as soon as possible. And so, I mean, I'm pretty sure with JP too, you know, he does your nutrition. Yeah. So it's like, if you miss a meal or you know, don't have like a certain amount of something, it's like, you know, like how, you know, to substitute and all that.
What about you, Ani? Do you feel like you have to have something before you do?
I definitely feel like I have to have something before I lift. Like, that's for sure. That's why, and it has to be anything, but mostly carbohydrates. So if my go-to is like, there's a gas station about like at the end of this block, and like if for whatever reason, I remember I went to lift ATX, right? For some reason, just didn't get a meal in. I slammed an entire thing of an entire giant Rice Krispie treat and a mini one just to get the amount of carbs that I needed for that workout. But, so yeah, obviously I feel weird. I don't like being hungry at the gym. Sometimes I do get hungry because my workouts, they tend to last too long. So eventually, you know, now I'm like insulin depleted and like I'm starting to get hungry. But I think something that you said about the routine and how much it's important, like, to me, that is like, we're about to
Oh, no.
Okay, to me, that's like one of the most undervalued and underlooked at things that will contribute to individual success is automation.
Yeah.
So if you create a routine, getting up at the same time, having the same amount of water out of bed, you know, having your entire start to the day be very consistent. You're out the door at the same time. You're in class at the same time for a similar amount of time. Your first meal, your second meal, your third meal, consistent. Your gym time is the same time and it's the same amount of time. Like the value that has for people in order for like maximum success, I think cannot be understated. Because for me, one of the reasons I believe that I regressed so hard, especially from 2020 to now, was the fact that the pandemic knocked me out of my routine. And I could just never, ever recover from that. Because, you know, I mean, it takes a while to build a routine.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had built one over the past 2 years of at least making sure that I was tracking my food 100% all the time. And, like, when the pandemic hit, I stopped doing that. And it was super hard to get back on that. So, yes, I think a routine is extremely important. Even now, I don't have one. And I can feel it. I can feel the struggle. I'm not myself without one. So that's why, you know, I'm also trying to cut 4 weight classes, technically, to get down to the same weight class that you are going to. So now I'm starting to try to build that routine.
Getting the cauliflower rice?
Getting the cauliflower rice. And, you know,
taking a step further.
making sure that I'm just disciplined about macro tracking and, you know, like checking all the variables, crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's, and trying to make that process automatic.
Yeah.
Because the more automatic it is, the more easy it is to get through. So, yes, routine is extremely, extremely important.
What about you, Gil? Do you feel like you have to have something or like a certain routine to make sure a workout is going to be going really well?
Yeah, I mean, after having to be so strict now with everything, it's like, yeah, like if I don't get good sleep or a good amount of water, or the for sure is the carbs, like the rice. Like there's times where like, of course, like, oh, I have to be in the gym this time because I have to finish my training. My training takes like 3 to 4 hours sometimes. And I'm like, oh, I still have to do this assignment or I have to do these readings. So maybe I won't have time for like a full meal, but I'll make sure to get in my carbs beforehand. So I'll make sure to have like the whatever amount of rice. And that makes a big difference.
Okay. I know, like, for me, it's like I said, I have to have like those main bagels or just some type of like simple carb that will digest real easily for me to have like a really good workout. Especially for me, like my routine, it's like I have to have it at a certain time before I go to the gym because I really don't like having something like in my stomach still trying to digest before. I'll be like,
you got like a big squat and you're like, oh no.
Like I'll take my time with my warm ups, being like, okay, hopefully like it'll be. Okay.
All right, and we're back. So
Once again,
so before the camera cut out.
one day will fix this problem. Anyway.
So before we cut out, Gil, I actually wanted to ask you a question. Obviously, you wanted to compete late summer and C Cup. So I was gonna ask you, what are your goals for the the summer meet, and then what are your goals for C Cup? I mean, you did talk about C Cup a little bit, like how you want to qualify, but like what go in depth of like your goals and all that.
Well, I guess if I were to do the meet before, which would be a summer meet, my expectations would be to place.
Okay.
You know,
Wow.
definitely,
Nice.
I would really want to place. Which I guess would be a little different to maybe my goals at C Cup, which is where I would want to qualify.
So you don't
Okay,
care
that's
about
it.
a place at a C Cup. You're just like,
Yeah,
if I
I
get
just-
a total.
I guess that's
So-
exactly it. Yeah,
So we're kind of similar in that.
Yeah. yeah.
Are you
like-
gonna compete?
Huh?
Are you competing?
Yeah, I'm competing in C Cup.
Well, yeah.
But summer, no. I'm focusing on mainly like cutting.
Yeah, that summer meet would definitely be like me wanting to place for sure is like top 3 in my weight class, and then C Cup would definitely be more like goal oriented towards like I would tell my coach like, hey, I for sure is let's get this total.
Let's full send.
Let's
Full
full
send,
send to get this total.
Get this total.
Whatever you think, make the calls. I trust you. That's definitely would be my goals at C
Yeah.
Cup.
Okay, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I know we're really far out.
Yeah.
But do you have any numbers in mind? Like, if you were to compete during the summer, is there
In
like
the summer?
is there like a meaningful PRs that you would really like to hit, or does it really not matter? You're just like whatever gets me to where I'm trying to go.
I guess it's more like whatever gets me to where I'm gonna go. Cause I feel like I've never been maybe like number oriented. I've just been like I'm gonna go all in, and I know because of like the work and just my hard work ethic that I am gonna be putting out numbers that are gonna do me well. So I guess that's my mindset. I mean, cause like it's also kind of hard for me personally to like gauge numbers of where I'm gonna be. So yeah, I'd say mainly it's just me being like, okay, whatever gets me there. But I know I'm gonna be going like all in my training and everything to get me to that point.
Okay. So as a lifter, how? Because we talked about this in the previous episodes. How are you as a lifter? Like, for example, when I go and compete, I know like the main attraction is like, oh, compete against yourself. You know, at the end of the day, it's as long as you put in your hard work and all that. But me, I'm the opposite. I'm like, okay, you're my fly, you're my weight class. I'm coming after you.
Yeah, I'm coming. Yeah.
So what is your mentality in like that as when you're competing? Well, actually, in the future.
In the future,
Yeah.
that's I think that's a really good distinction because that C Cup, it was definitely like my first C Cup was definitely like, okay, I just want to have the experience.
Have a taste.
But I guess for upcoming meets, whether it's summer or C Cup, I guess it's still maybe similar in the sense of I guess like of course I'd be competing against other people in my weight class, but I don't know. I guess I'm not the type of person that would like I guess check on the competition. You know, I would just like, just like I said, just put in the work to perform and execute well at the meet, and I know that would make me place. I guess that's how I look at it. I guess. I mean, of course, like I know, like let's say if I'm gonna do like the summer meet and my goal is to place, then I probably would. I'm not gonna like check out my competition and be like, okay, this guy's like pulling this, or oh, this guy's squatting this, benching this. So that means I would have to like get around this. So I guess that would be my way of like, is my way of looking at things.
Okay, cool. So on top of that, it's like, so if you're not checking on like your competition, what is driving you then?
Driving me?
That like what is like, okay, like I'm gonna because for me it was like, oh, this guy's doing this and that on squat, bench, and deadlift. So it's like I need to be better than that. So that's what was driving me. Now, since you're not, I don't want to like say you're not competitive or whatever. You obviously are competitive. Yeah. But in that sense, it's like what's driving you?
Yeah. I'd say what's driving me is just how would I say this? It's just that my main goal in powerlifting is longevity. And I want to be in the sport for the long run because there's this one, let's say like one person can be doing really well this year, but it's like, is he gonna still be here? In the years to come, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Whereas like I know myself, and not like in a cocky way or anything, but I know I'm gonna be in the sport for the long run, and I'm gonna do everything I can to be in the sport in the long run.
Like Candido.
Yeah, that's like a person I would say like I definitely do admire and stuff like that. So I guess that's my mindset is like I know I'm gonna do everything I can to be in the sport in the long run, and because of that, I know I'm gonna be like at a good place. That's what drives me, I guess.
That's awesome, actually. That's actually
Yeah, I think, I don't want to slander the man, but like one of the people that I always think of that has always just like these great what ifs. I don't know if you guys, I feel like I've maybe mentioned him before, but it's Jesse Norris.
Oh yeah.
Do you guys know who Jesse Norris was? He was a 93 kilo lifter, and he was so dominant. He was so dominant for so long. And he was doing these crazy lifts. Like, you see some of these 82s, 74s, 67s. Like, he was doing what they're doing for the 93 kilo class in, like, 2013, 14, 15, 16. And, like, some of his records and his totals still stand to this day. Because that's how good he was. But then he got injured. And it was, like, in 2017, I think, 2016. And he has just never, ever come back from that injury. And it's just like, I really agree with Gil. Like, longevity is the most important thing. And especially for a sport like this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also something that I think about often. Obviously, for me and you both, when we went into C Cup, both of our first meets, it was like, whatever. I'm here to go and do what I'm do, because I have never competed before. I don't even know what it's like. Yeah. Experience it. It's almost like, do I even like this, right? Because some people, they go over their first meet and they're like, it's not for me.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, like, I'm glad I got that first experience in the way. And it actually makes me happy that you're like, I'm ready to take this next step. I'm ready to vie for a podium spot. Like, why not? Like, and then, like, you want to see Nat's total. Like, that's another, like, big goal. It's very, very important to you. So I'm glad that you're evolving. And, like, but I'm also glad that you have that longevity factor in the back of your mind. Because none of it matters if you're not standing here by the time you're 30.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah,
And I do give you guys props for doing C Cup as your first. I do give you that. Like, that is crazy. C Cup had what?
297.
Yeah, 297 lifters. Holy shit! Like, that's crazy, especially for a first time meet, like someone who's never like competed in powerlifting, especially for you, first time powerlifting in general, and then like doing C Cup and you see 297 people like within like the 2 days, So I do want to delve in like in your thoughts, like what was running through your mind of that, and then on top of that, how do you think the meet was ran, and was it up to your expectations, or could have been better, or talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I guess like I said, I knew it was gonna be a big meet because it was so funny. Whenever I told people at the beginning that I wanted to do C Cup, and that was very like I guess maybe stubborn about like, yeah, I want to do C Cup as my first meet. They were like, okay, because they were like, it's a very big meet. So I kind of like had already known like that it was gonna be like a lot of people and stuff like that. The one thing that definitely did caught me off guard though was like how competitive it was and like how strong these people were. Yeah. But I thought that was like a very cool thing, and like what I thought was cool and what I love about powerlifting in general is that the community was so friendly. So I was talking to a lot of my competitors like before, and because obviously you might not talk during because you're in the zone.
Yeah.
But like before and after, like I talked to a lot of them and they were super nice, and we were just talking about like how our prep experience and stuff like that. So that's one of like I guess the things that I guess like went above my expectations was just like how nice everyone really can be in powerlifting, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
And then I guess like my expectations for how the meet was going to be ran, I had already heard that West runs really good meets, but having that as my first meet was so nice because it was like, in my opinion, like C Cup was such a well ran meet. It was so nice. Like all the equipment was up to par. The bench pads were super sticky. The bars had aggressive knurling, and just like the way the flights were handled, everything went great. It was a very smooth like meet, and just also the added effect of like turning off the lights and having like purple lights on you for like your final deadlift. It just makes the sport seem more legit and more fun to watch, which I think just adds like so much good to like our community.
Yeah, because not only that, like you said, when they changed the whole atmosphere of deadlift, like it's like holy shit.
Like, this is it,
Yeah. So I mean, for the lifters, it's like, all right, like it's go time. Yeah. And then for the audience, it's like, whoa, they're all entertained and all that. So no, Wes does a good job, and then shout out to the guy who calls up the names and all that. I forgot what they call that.
Yeah, the MC.
Yeah.
He does such a good job. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I don't know if it's like a different guy every time, but I think for so far for every TSS meet, it's been the same guy.
And he's very good about like just like the way he announces everything. It gets the crowd hyped.
Yeah, exactly. It gets the crowd hype, who gets hyped for you and all that, and he finds time to somehow manage to get the crowd to cheer on both platforms. Yeah. And it's crazy.
He definitely works hard. I'll see him like go back and forth. He's like, all right, we got this lifter from UTSA. Yeah. Let's clap him up. Come on. And then it's like, oh, we got this lifter from UT. So it's very cool. Definitely very cool.
So Wes, I mean, we talked about Wes doing a good job, and I don't think that's gonna change anytime soon.
Yeah, definitely.
I do like the consistency as well from the Strength Classic and the C Cup. You felt like they were both the same amount of care and the same amount of presentation.
I did notice that. I mean, at C Cup, I was obviously handling Evan the last day, but it was very similar. It was very similar in the maybe intense wise. I cannot say because I didn't compete, but for the most part, like the care and all that for like the athletes and the crowd that was watching and the audience, it was very professional.
I almost wonder if it was too good. Your first meet is a TSS meet run by Wes. Like anything else you might do, the bar is high now.
So bar is definitely so high. Yeah.
I wonder if you ever do a summer meet that is not a TSS meet. I know we talked a little bit off air about, or maybe on air as well, about how you were thinking of doing another TSS meet for that summer comp. I wonder if you decided to go somewhere else, maybe it would be a totally different atmosphere, vibe, and obviously it would be because if Wes is not directing, essentially it's like hiring a different director for a different movie,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Wes does a great job, and I enjoyed my experience both times. Even as a guy just sort of in the pit crew versus as a guy who was on the platform. It's funny that you mentioned that you got along with a lot of the other 66 at the time. Yeah. But I never really talked to any of my competition. I don't know. What did you guys ever talk to the other? I know the all meet was smaller, but like
I just felt like, I mean, I don't want to shame anybody, but I feel like the higher the weight class you go, the more dicks they are.
I've noticed that too. I just I don't know what it is. It's just like, thank God, like the people I was competing against, like they were chill, Yeah. But like I've seen some of like the 110s, and the higher weight classes. 125, 140, 140 plus.
Yeah, like I'm sorry, like I don't usually judge a book by its cover. But oh my god, dude, the RBF on them is like they look like if you were just to breathe the same air, they'd beat the shit out of you. And it was just like, I'm like, I'm just gonna sit here. Brian told me to sit down here. I'm not gonna talk to anybody. I'm not gonna do anything, So, but I just feel like the higher the weight class you go, like the more just RBF, and you just don't want to step on anyone's toes and rub them the wrong way and all that. So,
what about you, Matt? Do you feel like you could?
For me, it's just kind of like I didn't really get to talk to anyone. That was the only thing for me. Especially when, for one, C's Cup, I was really busy, making sure I try to film everyone, trying to make sure I can get everyone's lifts and, how hectic that is. So I didn't really get a chance to. Maybe a few times I would talk to some people, but they've been all but nice. But for the Strength Classic, I didn't really get to talk to anyone either. Not only because of nerves, but also the fact that trying to focus on my lifts and everything. I'm that type of person that's kind of I will be to myself because I'm trying to focus, make sure I'm doing the right things, also a little bit nervous. So, but if you go talk to me, like I'm still talkative. I'll still talk and whatever it may be and be respectful. But yeah, other than that, like from the experiences I've had, people have been nothing but nice from what I've seen. And yeah, but other than that, from C Cup for sure, from talking to people, just nothing but like respectful.
Oh, for sure.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's really good.
So I wanted to ask all of you guys a question, because actually, John, did you have anybody else on our team who was in your same weight class competing at the Strength Classic?
No, it was just me.
Okay, so then for Matt and Gil, because I was also the same way with C Cup. I was the only 120 on the team. I still am the only 120 on the team. So I was wondering, is there like a sense of camaraderie when we're back there in the warm up room, and you're warming up with Justin, or was it Justin?
Justin's in the weight class with
Who else competed with you at the 67? Ben,
Jacob and Ben.
Jacob, and for you it was a bunch of guys.
Well, for me, it was Brendan and D'Angelo were in my weight class.
So it's like, is there a sense of camaraderie there, being there with the team? Because I can imagine, like, you know, if you're there by yourself and it's just you and your guys, it can feel maybe the anxiety level is a little bit higher, or maybe it's just like you're more in a focused mode and you're more like maybe, you know, thinking about competition more versus when you're around your friends, essentially. You're more relaxed, you're more, you know, casual about it. Not necessarily not taking it seriously, but just in a more sort of
at ease.
Yeah, like there's a bit of alleviation of feelings of anxiety and just general stage fright, I guess. So do you guys feel it? We can start with Gil. Did you feel that way whenever when you were back there warming up with everybody around you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was really cool having well, I'd say also Justin, just because he was like around us, because he was competing around the same time, even though he was a weight class below us. But Jacob was like right next to me, like before we would get called out for like our flights and stuff. So it was really cool. Like we would be like fist bumping each other. So we would be zoned in, but we'd just be like, you know, just fist bump. And like that was just like a really like, I guess like nice like feeling, and just like just person to have there, you know, just like someone else on your team be there right before you go up for a big lift. And it just like, even though we were both like very zoned in, I feel like that I feel like I can speak for Jacob on this. It was just like it made me feel like just a little more like calm. So yeah, definitely.
It definitely like Gil said, made me feel a little bit more calm. Because with the meet, you know, you want to be competitive, but sometimes you just want to, you know, especially when nerves are going, you want at least something to kind of like calm you down. So, you know, having John, having D'Angelo, Brendan being there, and then just joking around, just kind of like, okay, you know, we're just here to have fun too, you know.
Yeah,
it doesn't always have to be so serious, you know, because it's like, at the end of the day, unless it's like a very competitive like meet, whether it's like Raw Nationals, like you have to do like make sure you're doing your best to place. It's really not a big deal like a local meet. Sometimes it might be big for someone, but sometimes you don't have to be so serious. Sometimes, you know, just have fun, relax. Like we're all here trying to, you know, do the same thing. We're all at different chapters of our lives, and with powerlifting. So hey, don't take it too seriously. Sometimes you just want to have fun. But you know when to zone it. You know, zone in. When it's coming down to like, okay, you're 3 people out, 2 people out. Okay, that's when you can start to, you know, dial it in. Then that's okay. That's perfectly fine with dialing it. But it was nice. It was really nice having them back there with me, calming my nerves down. You know, having fun, making jokes. Like sometimes it doesn't have to be so serious. You know.
Yeah.
But
definitely. No, for sure. Because I think when I was back there too, because obviously I'm the only one in my weight class on the team at the time, was just, you know, competing, but it just, to me, it just felt like another, you know, bro session with the guys, you know. It just like, oh, like we're all here to, you know, squat or whatever. Obviously you guys would squat first, and then I'm still resting, and then when you guys are like halfway done, I'm, you know, warming up and all that, so I don't get to, you know, I don't get to see you guys lift because unfortunately I'm warming up. But I mean, for the most part, when we have that break where we're all together, it felt nice. Because it's like, oh, you know, it's us here. You know, we're here, we're chilling, busting jokes like you guys said. You know, snacking and sharing snacks and all that. So
Definitely.
no, it for sure feels. It's like having, you know, that bro moment.
Yeah.
You know, you're not alone. So,
Yeah.
even though you guys are competing against each other, but it's almost like, oh, we're with each other. You know?
Yeah, definitely. Perfect way to describe it.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Calibrated Cast. We are in the end game, folks.
The end game.
So,
Did you think you would make it this far? No. So
you're one lucky son of a... Okay, anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
So there's this one question that you know we forgot to ask Alex, but where do you see yourself? And I guess you could say the powerlifting aspect in like maybe 5-10 years.
5-10 years? Whew. Dang, now that is a question. In 5-10 years, honestly, I see myself being a top competitor in my weight class in 5 to 10 years, and possibly breaking a world record in my weight class.
That's what I'm saying.
More specifically, deadlift.
Okay.
Oh.
I mean, it's possible to anybody, but especially when you have. I mean, I don't know how long you're gonna be with JP, but I think it's definitely possible, even with JP, maybe even shorter than 5 years. You know, he has a good roster. I mean, he's, like I said in the beginning of this podcast, he has many multinational, you know, lifters, and they've all are amazing lifters. You know, so it's like, I do see that. You know, I do see that. So, any questions you guys want to ask?
After you all turned to me as if I'm one. There's 2 questions I want to ask.
Okay.
You know one of them. Actually, you know both of them.
Yeah.
I'll start with a more, like, we'll end on a nice story. So, before, I would like to ask you, you know, along with the question of what do you want to do, like, what keeps you going? What makes you want to keep powerlifting? What's your motivation? What is your drive? Like, why do you keep doing what you're doing?
Why do I keep
Why do you
lifting
show
heavy
up
things?
every day and put your body through a lot of pain?
Yeah. I guess it goes back to a similar question that we talked about earlier in the podcast, but just my goal of longevity. And also just I want to be able to provide to the sport and the community as much as it's provided to me. So if I can make any like positive impact within our community, the powerlifting community, that's definitely a thing that drives me.
Ooh, okay. Do you see yourself like becoming a coach and like coaching other people? Yeah, I do. I see that as well. Like, especially with you at the gym, you know, you have people who will come and ask you, say, hey, like, how's this look? And then you're just like, I mean, like, not just you, but like you and like us in general is like when people come and ask us, it's like, how does this deadlift look? And it's just like, it's not the world's best deadlift, you know. And for me, I've tried to help many people in the past as much as I can, and I kind of finally came to a realization. It's just like, I don't want to help people anymore because some people take criticism completely the wrong way. You know, it's like, I mean, obviously it is like how you say things and stuff, but it's like also I don't know. I just feel like people take criticism the wrong way, and I feel like I've probably talked to like the wrong people, you know, especially when they're like, oh, like it's kind of weird because people come up to you and they ask you for help and you help them, or you say like, oh, you should try to do this and that, and then they do the complete opposite. It's just like, well, it's like, why you asked me in the first place, you know? So, but that's awesome. I do see you. I do see you as a good coach in the future, especially for people who are, you know, first starting off, because I mean I feel like that's probably like the best thing to do, especially when you're first starting off the coach, is coaching people who are new.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it also brings out like the different types of athletes, and it's kind of easy to manage in the long run. God, there's another question I wanted to ask, and it's skipping my head. we'll come back to that if it does come back.
Yeah, I was gonna say one quote that I really like, and it's actually from Dave Tate. I believe
Of course.
is live, learn, pass on. So
Oh yes.
that's like a quote that means a lot to me, and like I think that definitely influences like me as a lifter.
Okay. Wasn't there one more, right?
Do you feel? I mean, there is one more, but like, do you feel any like you? So you being a coach is one of your goals. Do you feel? I don't know, like a sense of like responsibility to when people ask you the question to help them, like, and like, because like for me, like some people don't really come up to me and ask for my advice necessarily on, especially not on tech, but like they will come up to me and be like, what did this look like, what did what would you rate this RP, should I go up, should I go down? And like sometimes like I try to like rise to that occasion and be like, okay, yeah, let me give you my 2 cents. But sometimes it's like, you know, I feel kind of like out of my depth, right? Like, are you like I don't know if I'm the right person to be answering these questions for you, and like, you know, so but there is a sense of obligation a little bit, because you know it kind of feels good to have, you know, at least a nice calming presence of authority, and like people are being safe enough or you're give people a safe enough feeling to come and be like, judge them, essentially. So like it's interesting that you said that you're like, no, it's not for me, which is totally fine. It's not for everybody. But what about you? Like when somebody comes up to you, do you feel like, well, now I have to help them, or is it like, no, like there's no thought in your mind about like, oh yeah, you're coming to me for advice, let me sit down with you for 10 minutes and we'll work this problem out?
Yeah, I'd say that's kind of my mindset about it. It's kind of just a thing that kind of just happens. Like I'm like, yeah, let's go. Let me see what this looks like. Let's see what we can work on and stuff. Yeah, that's definitely the way I'd say I look at things when those situations happens.
Okay. You didn't remember your question yet?
No, but I do want to add on. It's like, I think it's more of like I'm more willing to help out friends just because they know where I'm coming from. You know, like for example, Isaac and Annalise. Annalise came to me. She's like, hey, like, how's my squat look? Like this felt kind of heavy because, you know, it's not, you know, feeling right today. And I'm like, okay. Like I saw her squat video. I was like, oh, okay. It looks like you're keeping your chest upright, and then you're not really kind of bracing in your ribs down. So, you know, I try to explain to her what that means and all that. I mean, she took it, and next thing you know, next week she blew that out of the water, and I was like, wow, see, you know. So I feel like with friends, I'm more willing to help because they understand and they know where I'm coming from versus like somebody, you know, you just met at the gym is like, well, like you lift a lot, like can you help me out? You know, I don't know how well they're gonna respond to what I'm gonna say, or if they could even take my advice. So it's just, I guess it just depends on the situation.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I guess the reason I feel so like, I guess it's like that I want to try to help too is because I was very lucky that when I first joined the Texas State powerlifting team, that there were certain people that were very welcoming and helpful to me because I didn't know what RPEs were and how to gauge them. You know, there were certain things I just had no idea about, and it was people like, you know, John or Brian and stuff like that, or Matt, that just made me feel very welcome to the team, and they just helped out in any way they could. So, you know, it made me want to be like, I want to be able to help out people as much as I can.
Oh, and not to mention, you guys both joined at the same time, right?
No. You joined in 2020.
In the spring, yes.
In the spring, and I joined in 2021 in the fall.
So we're very close then.
No, not close at all. We're separated by more than a year.
That's true.
I feel like you guys both joined.
I think we both like.
I guess because of C Cup, maybe.
Yeah. I feel like, and I don't want to speak for you or anything, but I feel like within the community, we both. I guess I really don't know. Maybe I'm speaking out of my ass here, but I feel like in the community we both sort of rose to prominence at the same time, and our journeys like intertwined a lot. So when people saw Gil, they saw me. When people saw Brian, they saw both of us, or they saw one of us with Brian, and it was like we're like a trio. We were a trio for a long time, and we kind of still are, but we've expanded to include all you guys and Alex and even other individuals. So like, I guess maybe there is a mental association there with me and Gil. I mean, I probably hung out with Gil more than anybody else on the team, which is kind of a weird thing to think about, considering, we were very, in a technical sense, we were very spaced apart.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, so I was gonna say something and now I forgot. Damn it, John.
No, I forgot what I was gonna say too, and it wasn't until like 2 minutes later I was like, oh yeah, this was it.
It's contagious.
I think to your point, I wanted, like, in terms of helping friends versus helping strangers, I think it's also, for me at least personally, it's a confidence thing. So in terms of like, because I've lifted with these people now for the better part of half a year, I kind of am more able to judge them on their RPEs and maybe even on their tech. Like, I know I've made calls for people like Elsa, people like Alex, even calls for you and calls for you. You know how good I am at getting you to
for sure.
So like, I think, and obviously yes, there is a relationship there to where they know where I'm going to come from. They're not going to take it as me saying you're shit. Like, they're going to take it from a place of, and I think that also is a mindset of the person who's, like, are you willing to receive advice? And it's almost like they have like one foot in the door where they're willing to ask for advice, but like if it's something they don't really want to hear, they're not going to take it well.
Yeah.
And obviously there's also like, are you a dick when you give it? But like, I think it's more of like, people want advice because they think that they're doing something wrong, but it's also this weird thing where they think they're doing something very specifically wrong that they already have an idea of, and when you tell them that it's something else, they're like, yeah, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So that's maybe where it kind of comes from,
Makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Where did you?
It hasn't came back. I don't know where it went, bro. It's completely gone.
But I mean, speaking on that situation, I think it's just kind of like, I mean, over time, it's just like you'll gain more knowledge. You start to gain more knowledge about the sport, RPEs, certain techniques and everything, and then people will come to you, notice that you've especially if you've grown so much with your techniques, your RPEs, everything. They're gonna start to be coming to you, making sure like, hey, what do you think of my my squat, my deadlift, my bench, whatever it may be. So they start to be like, oh, this person knows more more than I do. I feel comfortable going to this person for advice. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, since there's a lot of us, we can always go to each person because we can also gain different perspectives. I can go to John and be like, what do you think? Do you think I should change it? And then I can always go to Gil with like, hey, what do you think about it? Yeah. Because I usually do that, especially with RPEs. I'll be like, hey, should I go up? And be like, yeah, go up this much. And I'll be like, it gives me an estimate of like, how much should I go up? Should I just,
But
stay?
You're also like, I feel like you as a lifter, you know yourself so well, and like you kind of gauge yourself. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like watching you lift is like, okay, this is truly an RPE like 7 or 8. Like you truly know yourself, and so like I do find that like awesome, especially that connection between your coach and you. So I think that's pretty good to have.
I mean, it helps with your confidence too, because sometimes you'll be like, oh, I should just stick to this, and they'll be like, no, it's okay, just go up. You like to us, you might feel like, oh, that was hard, but like you didn't realize how fast it went. So it'd be like, oh, go up, that was too easy. So it's really helpful coming to people, asking for their advice, not only for coaches too. and that's another thing, you know, having that coach relationship, being like, just trust them. That's why you hired them, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely,
So,
definitely.
I mean, there's gotta be a reason why. So, it is very important. But, I mean, I've seen how much you've grown to teaching others, especially with like, you know, people going to like, hey, ask Gil about pulling slack, you know, like asking, like, he knows a lot,
Yeah.
you know, ask him, he should know. But that just comes with experience,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
building confidence about it, and then building on it and seeing like, he's really good at it.
Yeah, exactly. I remember just today, there was an individual at the gym who, you know, was like, he was deadlifting, and he had a very interestingly wide conventional stance, and like, I was like, you know, if you're gonna go that wide, just, you know, switch to sumo. That was kind of a joke, right? It wasn't really being serious. But then he's like, oh, I don't know the first thing about sumo. And I literally turned and pointed to Brian and Gil. I said, you got two of the sumo experts standing 5 feet from you. These are the guys you want to talk to if you want to switch to sumo. So yeah, I think that goes without saying that you've come along. Not even like the short time that we've been friends and we've been sort of co-lifters. Like, you've come a long way, man, and it's
Thank you.
awesome to
That
see
means a
that you're
lot.
kind of leaning into it.
Thank
You know, I think a lot of people would kind of shy away from the responsibility and be like, you know, because it's so easy in powerlifting. Because it's an individual sport.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So it's so easy to just be focused on yourself. And
Yeah.
like, I don't want anybody to bother me, I'm just going to do my list and go home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's-
And
Yeah.
sometimes there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But like, the fact that you're so willing to essentially accept this responsibility a little bit and be like, yeah, you know, I have been here for 2 years now, and I've come so far, and I've learned a lot. I'm sure you have learned a lot. I'm sure your base of knowledge is much higher than it was when you started.
Definitely, yeah. Definitely.
So, yeah, it's cool that you're leaning into it. I like
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Awesome.
that. Appreciate that.
And then it's just like on top of that, it's like I remember you used to come to me for advice like on bench and all
Yeah.
that, and then now it's like it's almost like the other way. It's like I've seen you progress in bench, maybe even further than me. You know, like it's crazy because now I'm like, damn, like he has like a good arch, like damn, like he, you know, like your technique and all that. Like it's crazy to see you like glow up. You know,
Thank you, bro.
from like joining the team or from tryouts to now, and it's honestly like inspiring.
Thank you, man.
It's like I don't know, because I feel like for me at least, I'm gonna speak for myself, I'm like very like self-taught, you know. I came to the sport self-taught. I did research and how to bench, you know, and look at different, you know, top benchers and like how they set up and do their things. And so like I wish that's like one thing for me. I wish I was more, I guess you could say, like not shy and like ask questions, because I feel like if I do ask questions, I'm bothering other people and wasting time. So I feel like I wish I would have done that at the beginning, and now look at me, fucking stubborn. You know? So it's but no, it's definitely interesting. And then it's also amazing seeing you know, glow up and become the lifter you are today. So I'm excited for C Cup and for you to go to C Nats. That's gonna be amazing.
God, I can't even. Wow. Yeah, you're right there, aren't you?
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy. So hopefully I'll see you at C Nats. Hopefully I make it to C Nats.
Oh, very
because
good.
I know for sure you're gonna make it. So hopefully I make it and everything. It's because, I mean, we talked about this on the past few episodes. Man, this is like C Cup and then C Nats. Those are my last two collegiate meets, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it for me as a collegiate lifter. And so I like when C Cup happens, I'm putting everything on the table. Like I'm telling Brian, I'm like, look, I don't care about podium. I do not care.
Yeah.
I just want to qualify.
Yeah,
So,
I feel that. Yeah.
So if we have to risk, we'll take those risks. So I mean, he knows this. Like Brian, if anything, I've talked about Nats nonstop to Alex and Brian like every day. It's the one thing that I talk about the most, and so I think making it to CNATS is gonna be like, it's like one of those dream goals to to make for sure.
Yeah.
For me at least. So.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, here we are now. Not too long after. I mean, I'm gonna be leaving, but it's gonna be fun to see y'all and then hearing the stories about what happens. I mean, coming soon, so it's gonna be fun. I mean, save that for the future, and I look forward to seeing it too.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
not only that, it's crazy though. Now it's like, speaking on which, on a different topic, is there was potentially, I know you weren't even, there was a potential of you not even coming to Texas State, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you were approached by
Mr. David Blackburn.
Mm-hmm. And he was talking, he was like, hey, you should come to Texas A&M for powerlifting.
Yeah.
How did he even approach you about that? Like, was it like you were actually doing like powerlifting stuff?
Yeah, it's a kind of funny story because I was with my girlfriend at the time, and she was over in College Station, and I needed to do bench, so I was like, well, let's go to Anytime Fitness, because they had a rack, barbell, so I was like, I can get my work done there, and so I go ahead and go to that gym, and I guess he saw me arching. And he was in the main kind of like little office area. And he came up to me and he was like, "Are you a powerlifter?" And I was like, "Yeah, I train powerlifting."
Maybe.
Yeah, a little enthusiastic. And he was like, "Oh, I saw you arch, man. Like you have a good arch." And I was like, "Thank you." And it was funny because I actually mentioned to him even then. I was like, "Yeah, I want to arch like Nori."
Dang.
And he was like, "Oh, bro, you can easily achieve that." And like, such a nice guy. He spent like 25 minutes with me just helping with my arch form and just my bench form, and he helped me figure out my most like optimal squat stance and stuff like that. The whole squatting wide thing was like my own fuck up. He told me to squat narrower, and then
he was squatting like he came out of the gym himself.
I was about to say like, damn, this guy's straight out of one side.
yeah, that was my own fuck up. David told me to squat narrow, but he's also the person that told me to deadlift sumo, and he gave me tips on that too, and. Well, the one thing he told me is, hey, if you need coaching, I do coaching, and you can talk to me, message me about it. And he was the first one to I guess talk to me about coaching and just being like, hey, if you tried out for the A&M team, I'm sure we would get you in. You're very coachable, and so I guess that was my first introduction to any powerlifting team type situation. And I was very close, actually, to not going to Texas State. But A&M didn't have my major, which is criminal justice. So that kind of, was like, well, not
on
going
a
there.
Technicality.
And then I was this close to going to UTSA. Like going to Texas State was such a last-minute decision. Like, it was like, okay, I'll go to UTSA, do criminal justice there, and, get my criminal justice degree there and join the powerlifting team there. And then last minute, I was like, Texas State. And I think it's funny because to a lot of people I've talked to, it seems like sometimes Texas State isn't necessarily the first choice, but they're just so happy that they decided to go to Texas State. Because me personally, I am so happy I decided to be here in San Marcos and go to Texas State. I can't see myself at any other university. So yeah, that's a little funny little story.
8 years now.
Yeah, here we are now.
That's for sure. I think it'd be very interesting to I wish you could kind of see different
universities. Yeah.
It's okay, well, let me put myself in UTSA powerlifting team. Let me put myself in A&M, and let me put myself here, and let me see how it all plays out.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of interesting. Yeah. But I'm glad you chose to come here, and it's an amazing connection that all of us have. You know?
So very happy.
I know the crazy road that I took to get here, so I'm like an old fart inching my way through college.
No, we have a very similar though on how we got to
that. That is true.
Yeah,
but
wrong.
We've got this far.
Yeah, we're here.
Well, here we are now.
We're here now.
It's gotta be a reason. Why would you so? Well, anything else? Any other questions?
Come back for you?
Did the question
it hasn't. I don't know why.
What's the over-under on us turning off this mic, getting the audio sent off, and you remembering the question?
It's like, oh no.
No, but overall, I'm glad I'm able to live with you guys, and I wouldn't change it over anybody else. Like,
Same.
It wouldn't be the same. So,
I mean,
I feel the
It
same.
means a lot, man. Thank
I
you
feel
very
like it's gotta be a reason why we're here, so you know.
not wrong. So,
But yeah.
it was a pleasure lifting with you at TSS at like one of your last meets, right?
Well, last meet as far as like a collegiate lifter,
Collegiate,
and
yeah.
now I moved to open. Oh god.
Oh
Time to kill it in the
my
open.
God. I can't believe I'm just remembering this, and I can't believe I haven't brought it to you, but like, one of the most impactful things you ever did for me was being in the back with me in the warm-up room at Collegiate Cup and handling all my warm-ups. Brian had to handle another individual. I can't remember who it was. It was Preston. It was Preston. So,
That's right.
so Brian had to handle Preston, so he couldn't be in the back with me. And this man stepped up to the plate and took care of me the entire Collegiate Cup. That's when I knew that I had a friend for life, man. He didn't even hesitate. You didn't even hesitate. Were you nervous about that at all? Were you like, no, but you were like, no, I'm ready. I've seen you lift. I know what's going on.
I mean, I was definitely a little nervous in the sense of because I've never had I mean, it was my first meet too.
Yeah.
So it was everything.
It was the next day.
It was the next day. It was like
the day before. You're exhausted, and then by the way, Brian's like, "Hey, by the way, I need help."
Yeah, so there was definitely
man.
it was definitely like some nerves there. But you know, luckily Brian explained to me just like making sure to keep track of just like the lifting cast times, and another person that was actually very helpful was Mr. BMG, Big Matty.
True.
He was like, "Do you need some help?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Here, just look at this, manage this, and you'll be fine." And because of that, made myself feel very cool, collected, and I was able to, you know, help out Ani to the best of my ability.
Meanwhile, I'm running around like a chicken with his head cut off. I'm like, fuck.
No.
Like, oh my god, this is Evan Green. Oh my god. You know. But
Yeah, the story of my first meet is actually crazy. Like, everything leading up to the meet, and then even during the meet, and it's probably a story for another time, but like, there are things that went down that whole time, the whole prep, even from joining the team, that are just like, I can't believe I even showed up on that day and performed the entire meet. And I honestly believe, and I say this 100% from the heart, it's true. I would not have been able to do it without you.
Oh, bro.
I would not have been able to do it without
But you also gotta realize, like, I need to tell this to myself too, is it's all in you as well. Like,
yeah.
I do want to admit, like, I do need to look in the mirror and say some of this shit, but you also put your trust into his hands. And as a lifter, that's a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
And it was all your hard work that paid off on those lifts.
And
on
that
those,
doesn't
at that
take away
podium.
from anything.
Yeah.
Except for that 430. They stole that from me.
Oh
They
my
stole it from
god.
me.
Let it go. Save it for the next one.
I could barely sleep at night with that 363 left off.
I will say, even like half handling Ani and just being in charge of the warm-ups, you were in charge of both, of course, warm-ups and like, you know, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like, it felt like I went into like full dad mode, like, you know,
Exactly.
parent mode. I was like, no, my lifter needs to do this right now.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just like, I want the best for Ani right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you probably felt the same way, maybe with like.
Especially with Evan.
Yeah.
Evan's just like, he's like an animal that you cannot tame. Like, Evan was ready to go at it. I'm like, Evan, it's not your turn. Chill out.
Yeah, you're like,
I'm only going by his belt.
Wait a minute.
It's not your turn.
Yeah.
So, but no, for sure. You know, respect for everybody out there handling your coaching. You know, it is not
Definitely.
easy.
Yeah, definitely not easy.
It is not easy, especially to those who compete the next day after they're handling people. Oh my god, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it.
Or people who compete and handle at the same time.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Brian.
That Brian. I don't know how he does that.
Oh my
That was
God.
crazy.
We gotta get him in this room and talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh, we will.
We will. But yeah.
Well, that's been it for the Calibrated cast. On that note, Gil, it was a pleasure to have you in this room and have a long conversation with you. And you know, with what you're about to do, like, there's so many things that I want to talk about, but they have yet to happen. So we're definitely gonna have you back in here talking about like all kinds of crazy stuff that you're about to do. I believe 100% that you're gonna crush all your goals. And even in less than 5 years, I believe you'll be at Open Nats for sure.
For sure.
So,
collegiate and open.
With that being said, you can follow Mr. Gil, on Instagram at Gil.glutes,
With a Z at the end.
with a Z at the end.
And I have to say, my name came from Mrs. Luna Lifts. I have to shout that out.
Shout out to Luna Lifts.
Shout out to Luna Lifts.
Alex.
Gil
as we
Glutes
had
would
her on
not
the last
exist.
episode.
Miss.
So shout out to Alex.
He's the best. You can follow John,
Lotissimus __ prime.
Matt,
At William, or you can say whatever the fuck it is. I don't give a fuck. And at this point, VILLEAMM.
doesn't know his own handle, it's okay. You can follow me at Sabretooth with an X _ or SXBERTOOTH _. You can subscribe to this channel. Actually, this is not the Calibrated Cast, this is on Matt's channel. But
We're still in the process.
I know we've been talking about this for 2 episodes in a row now.
Give us some time.
It's actually gonna be created by next episode.
One can dream. But when that gets up, we'll probably throw it either at the end or in the description box and in the future episodes, of course.
Yes.
That's been it for the Calibrated Cast. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
Catch you on the flip.
Love you, Rosie.